New year, new me. Will this finally be the year you break through and become a successful content creator? For me, that was last year, and now I'm making a podcast where I help you do the same. No snake oil or selling you some dodgy online course. I just really love talking about being a content creator. So join me in this podcast where I cover content creator news stories, cover important topics and questions like how do you get sponsorships? What's more important, asking your audience for a comment or for a like? And just a fair bit of me being me talking about my own ups and downs of being a full-time content creator. And of course, I'm also going to get on a whole bunch of YouTubers and creators to pick their brains to help make us all better at getting those sweet, sweet views. I'm Ryan Bolt. You're listening to Clickworthy. In this podcast, we will be covering stories on honey, the honey scam that everyone's talking about. Instagram are putting bots on their platform. That's an announcement they have made. I'll answer the question, what is more important, asking your audience for a comment or for a like? Or maybe is there something else you should be asking them for instead? And what to do when you upload a video to YouTube and it gets 0 views, which is something that if you're a small content creator, probably happens to your first couple of videos. So firstly, let's jump straight into the honey story. So in case you live under a rock, this is a story that broke about 3 weeks ago by the YouTuber Megalag, where PayPal has this browser extension called Honey. And what it allegedly does is you install it, and every time you check out of any sort of e-commerce store online or eBay, someone else's shop, is it's going to quickly scan the web and see if it can get you a coupon that might save you a bit of money. Unfortunately, what Megalag is alleging and essentially proves pretty definitively in his video, which I highly recommend that you watch, is that Honey just kind of steals the affiliate link or commission from anyone else that might have taken a customer to that site. Because if you don't know what happens every time, say, a content creator gets a sponsorship, or maybe sometimes not a sponsorship, they will just generate an affiliate link for a product, put it in the description of their video and say, if you want to buy this, you can support the channel by using their link. They will sometimes get a kickback, or sometimes in the case of sponsorships, they don't get a kickback. They just get actual credit, the credit properly attributed to them that they did in fact generate that sale for the business that sponsored them, which is of course really important in the sponsorship economy, that anytime someone from a sponsor tries to contact a content creator, of course, what they're looking for is to try and generate more sales. And they like to measure that with things like custom links or affiliate tokens that help let them know where the people that have bought their products have actually gotten those products from. And what Honey is doing is at that last moment, you click on, say, one of my links where I go all the way down through, you go through the whole process. You click my link, you go to their website, you scroll through all of their products, you select the couple of products that you're really interested in, you add them to your cart. Right now, I am attributed for getting that sale. I'm the one that will get the credit that business knows that I have sent them that customer and they're buying it because of me. But at the very last moment, Honey, through a number of prompts, either telling you that it's going to try and get you a better deal, which if it does find you a better coupon code, if you then apply, of course, Honey gets that commission instead. Or more so, where the really dodgy part is sometimes it will pop up and it'll say, hey, I didn't find you any better deals. And when you click the dismiss button, it's still stealing that affiliate code. So the fallout from this has been huge. As of recording, Honey has lost about 3 million customers. You can see this via the Google store. You can see that the extension has been added to Chrome about 20 million times. That has now dropped down to 17 million. So still a large number of people are using it, but you can start to see a bit of the drop off. And what's happening now is that the YouTube channel Legal Eagle and a few other creators and few other legal people have lodged I don't know the correct word, a petition or they've lodged a document to try and turn this into a class action lawsuit for content creators. Even though there may have been some wrongdoing here on the part of actual customers, like sometimes Honey doesn't give you the best code that it could. Instead, it will just give you the one that makes it essentially the most money because they have signed a deal with a given brand or company. But unfortunately, because of essentially the terms and conditions, customers are not going to be able to take legal action against Honey that easily, but content creators can because essentially they've been stealing money out of content creators' pockets. So that is the brief of the story and where we are up to. So I have some thoughts on this because I am now a full-time content creator, but previously to this, I spent about 5 years being a tech product manager where essentially I design products, software, kind of like, well, not like Honey at all, but of which Honey is, of course, a tech product. And it is so funny, almost sadistically funny, how almost genius of a product Honey is if you are evil. If you just want to get rich in a semi-evil way, or at the very least, a fairly unethical way, it's a really genius product because Honey is one of the more active YouTube sponsors. They've sponsored most large creators. I would be shocked if you never came across a Honey ad in a mid-sponsorship video section. And what they are then doing is future sponsorships that those YouTubers have, if they have managed to successfully get a customer to install Honey, anytime that customer then tries to buy something else from a sponsorship from that same YouTuber, they're essentially robbing the money out of that YouTube's pocket. It is so geniusly nefarious. Horribly unethical, but very interesting to say the least. Okay, next we are up to this story that got announced in, I believe it was a shareholder presentation, about a week and a half ago, that Meta has announced plans to integrate AI-generated characters into its social media platforms. Essentially, they are going to flood their own platforms with AI bots that are going to have, and this includes Facebook and Instagram, and these are going to have their own AI personas, their own profiles, their own bios, their own profile pictures, and will be capable of generating and sharing content alongside human users. The dead internet theory is not only real, but has been literally announced to the public trading share market. And this is really interesting. I have an excerpt from a news article, or two, or three. This initiative aims to enhance user engagement by making the platforms more entertaining and interactive. For instance, WhatsApp is testing a new design that features a dedicated AI tab showcasing popular AI characters and organizing chatbots by subject matter. I guess if Hatsune Miku is one of the biggest pop stars in the world, I wonder if we're going to start having more popular AI influencers. However, concerns have been raised about potential spread of misinformation and the impact of the value of content created by real users. To address these issues, Meta has stated that AI-generated content will be clearly labeled to distinguish it from human-generated content. This development is part of a broader trend among social media companies to incorporate generative AI technologies into their platforms. Meta's approach reflects a shift towards more open, automated, and AI-driven interaction, aiming to leverage AI to enhance user engagement. And what I find really interesting about this is, of course, the entire economy on the way that Facebook and Meta and Instagram and, I mean, every other platform makes money is by selling ads to advertisers. And the red pill version of me certainly asks the question, are Meta going to start charging, and this is ridiculous, but are they going to start secretly charging businesses who advertise on those platforms money to show their ads to users who are actually bots. Now, of course, that already happens because these platforms are already full of bots. But I wonder if, in a funny way, they're going to start inflating their own margins by also having AI generated users who are then going to help, I don't know, man, that fit the profile of a typical viewer that can then be served ads. It actually reminds me of a business idea that you can totally steal if you want. Uh, so there's a decently sized economy of people who buy Instagram followers and TikTok followers, and also likes and views and stuff on those platforms. There's no real clear evidence or not as to if that actually harms you long term. There's moderate evidence to suggest that it does, but there's a whole bunch of people claiming that it doesn't. Especially the more and more I learn how these algorithms work, I think as long as it's not the overwhelming majority of your users, it wouldn't hurt you too much. But where I do think there is a really interesting market is niche specific bots that you could then sell, or like you could purchase to get views from. Say you have a bot and all it does all day is it watches a whole bunch of gardening content. And then you have someone come along who is going to start up a new gardening account, and they need to help get their content in front of other people who likes gardening. And what you can go and do is buy 1,000 views from these bots that do nothing but watch gardening content all day, and they watch the full thing, completely crushing in a good way your watch time that will then help serve that piece of content organically to other people who watch that similar sort of content. And that's my business idea, and someone should steal that because I think it would actually work pretty well, with the asterisk that that type of economy might die with this whole meta adding AIs to their own platform sort of thing. Because, and we will get into this later, but one thing that I think platforms struggle with still a little bit with completely new accounts, TikTok is really good at this, but YouTube is still a bit slow with essentially working out what a given channel is about when it's new. And I think that the problem that that sort of service would solve would be fixing that sort of problem, that right away these platforms are going to go, oh, this is a channel about boating because all of these boat users are watching it, but instead it's just like bots. Cool. What we are going to get into next is answering the question, what is more important, a comment or a like, or potentially something else? And before we get into that, whatever platform you are watching or listening to this on, can you please do me a big favor and leave a 5-star review? This is a completely new podcast. There will be 0 reviews when you're listening to this, most likely. If you leave a 5-star review, leave a comment alongside it, and from next episode forward, each week I'll read out either my favorite or a couple favorites of those 5-star review comments. Of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment, please. It helps so much. Speaking of which, something I have talked about in some of my TikTok comments, because I think this is really important for short form content, is to, in each piece of content, you should definitely remind your audience, give them some sort of cue to help them to like or comment or favorite it or share it. But on those platforms, I think only doing one at a time is really important, because if you ask someone in this day and age to like, comment, subscribe, that sentence just completely passes through them. It's just complete wallpaper white noise at this point, that we are evolutionarily programmed to be able to just ignore things that we see and hear a whole bunch of times. This is why if you ever do any sort of creative writing, they say to avoid cliches. And yes, avoid cliches like the plague is a line that I still love so much. The reason they say that is because once we have heard a sentence, i.e. a cliche, so many times that our brain just doesn't process it anymore, is it kind of grabs the sentiment from it and chucks it out. It doesn't actually stick in our brain. So something, and in its say creative writing, storytelling, when you're trying to deliver an impactful, emotional story, when you use a cliche, it just doesn't grab the user's soul. It doesn't grab the audience, the reader's brain, the same way that creating something completely novel and organic and new and genuinely human that they haven't heard before will actually evoke that sort of emotion. And so when you're trying to ask for comment, like, subscribe on short form, only ask for one at a time, only one per piece of content, which is where we get to this question of which is more valuable. Now, firstly, on short form content, I really, really think the name of the game is to make a lot of content. You don't it's definitely a lot more of a numbers game on those platforms. I'm someone who started to really work out what will make a piece of content perform well, how to actually, and when I say that, I essentially am talking about creating a piece of content that a audience member is going to want to keep watching and then watch for as close to the full duration of the video as possible. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about getting a video to do well. Essentially boils down to something that someone wants to watch. And then also, as a bonus, watch and engage with. So, out of watching, out of liking or commenting, what is more important? We'll talk about YouTube specifically for a bit. In my experience, on pieces of content where I'm getting a higher ratio of likes to views, which tends to be a bit above 10 to 1, tends to be a pretty good number, compared to getting people to comment. Whenever I create a piece of content where commenting is really incentivized and a lot of people are commenting, that piece of content tends to perform better. At least on YouTube. YouTube really seems to prefer getting a whole lot of comments than getting a whole lot of likes. Now, don't get me wrong, getting likes is really, really important. And I have learned the hard way that even though I really never wanted to be that YouTuber that asked my audience to like, comment, subscribe, the reminder really does help them remember that, oh, if I'm enjoying this piece of content, that is an action that I should take that can help out this creator. And on the pieces of content or the early videos, especially where I forget to ask for any of that, it's so obvious that instead of getting about a 10 to 1 views to likes ratio, it falls down to about 30 to 1. So many more people forget to hit that like button. And when it comes to short form content, say on TikTok, I don't think there is that much of a difference between likes and comments. As long as there is engagement, the platform's fine with that. Essentially fine with that. And then those platforms care about watch time. Same as YouTube. Watch time is king. Watch time dominates everything. But engagement is the additional 20% that will usually help you get your content pushed more to more audiences. Once you already have that watch time going for you. And of course, the important thing to note about comments on short form platforms is that usually when someone is reading or writing comments, the video is still playing on in the background. So it's going to up the watch time, the average view duration, which will get that piece of content pushed further. And then what? Oh, no, I did say already that you should definitely, on short form, only get them to do one at a time. And then same thing with YouTube. Really try to create unique ways to get people to hit like, comment, and subscribe. Try as hard as you can to create sentences or organic ways to ask for those pieces of information or for ask for those actions in a way that your audience probably hasn't heard before. Like right now, if you want to feel special today, statistically, about 1 in 350 people who watch this YouTube video will hit the subscribe button. So if you want to feel special today, feel like you are a bit above the rest of the people, if you want to feel like you're the cream of the crop, the top of the mountain, the tip of the iceberg, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any more episodes of this podcast. And how much more engaging to your brain is that than saying like, comment, subscribe? Now, what to do when your first video or videos most likely get 0 views? Now, firstly, this is a problem that you will encounter when you start YouTube, especially if it's a new channel. Maybe if you are already an active channel that watches a whole lot of content in the niche that you are going to be posting about, you might, this is only a theory, be able to skip that a little bit. But more than likely, YouTube is going to sit your video on 0 views for me, it was about, I think it might have been a week on my very first video before it got literally any views, besides probably 7 views or so of me clicking onto the page. Now, first of all, the problem that you kind of encounter with this, that how deflating it can feel, that you post a video and it gets 0 views, that is something that I had to deal with. Now I'm getting 1 million views a month. It's fine. It happens to everyone. YouTube, posting to YouTube, trying to become a YouTuber or a content creator is a long-term game. When I started my channel, the commitment that I made to myself is I would try and post once a week for 2 years, and then I would decide whether I was in or out. Because watching other creator advice type content, listening to other stories on, subreddits like new YouTubers and that sort of thing, though that looked like that would probably be a realistic time frame to be able to start making a genuine sort of, I guess, side income from YouTube. Little did I know that my channel would be so crazy that here I am 8 or 9 months later, and I've been a full-time content creator for nearly 3 months now. But yeah, you need to, when you post that video and it is on 0 reviews, just get started on your next video, because it's going to take you a couple videos before you start even getting maybe 100 views. Unless you are one of those unicorn accounts that will post a video that does get a few 100,000 views in the first video, and then you get 10,000 subscribers monetized straight away. That does happen, but that is probably a handful of accounts at most. Each year will do that. The next best example is probably me. I would assume that I'm in about the top 1% of growth, hitting, 30,000 subs in the first 6 months, hitting my first 1 million views in probably 5 or 6 months or so. Like, I think that is as absolutely good as you could possibly hope for. That is going to be the top 1%. That is still a whole lot of time and effort. Probably 10 to 20 hours a week for 6 months. Are you willing to do that for next to no reward? Is what you need to ask yourself, and then kind of say yes to if you want to actually be if you want to be that top tier of growth of content creator. So before answering the question, the other thing that I do want to say is that this is one of the reasons that I really recommend, if you want to be a YouTuber in 2025, also start a TikTok at the same time, because the time that it's going to take you to learn of how to create a decent piece of video content that is engaging, you're going to be able to undertake that learning curve so much quicker on a platform that will hand you your first 200 views on every piece of content, where you can then actually start to look at the analytics and start to work out, what do I need to do better each and every video? And then each time you post, try and do something better. Try and do something that will help make an audience want to watch your content. Because if you just have, realistically, if you're posting once a week, your first 4 or so videos will be sitting on less than 100 views. Once you're hitting post on that 4th video, i.e. being a month in, your channel, if you're lucky, might have 200, 300 views. Now, what to do when your first video gets 0 views? Listen closely. You need to be patient, and you need to keep posting, because YouTube doesn't know who who it should be serving your videos to when you first post. Now, algorithms on all platforms are getting so much better at essentially AI transcribing everything that's said and shown in a video to work out what this is about and then who it might want to show that piece of content to. But it's still going to take time. And one of the things that you can do that will help YouTube the most with working that out is just to keep posting. And of course, very importantly, in the same niche. It is so, so important to start in a small niche, and you've probably heard this a million times, but I will explain this a bit better than I think other people will. It's really important to understand, to start really small with who your target audience is. And especially if you can work out a really succinct reason that someone should watch your video or your content over another video that's probably already in the platform, i.e., if you can get a bit more specific, say with Culinary Garden, my main YouTube channel. Once I worked out that my additional piece of being specific or niched down, which I think is an overused term, essentially my unique differentiator of just being an Australian, specifically southeastern Australian gardening channel where there was essentially no other content creators with more than probably 2,000 subscribers. There are a few small ones around. Once I worked that out, that is my additional sort of niche down, and I started to help work that into my titles and thumbnails, that's when the channel really started to explode a lot more. So if you can give your audience an additional reason to click on your content over someone else in the same niche, say if you're in video games, one of probably the most competitive niche on YouTube, if you niche down into a specific game, that's going to help you to start with. And you do that for your first 6 months or a year. Especially if you can say within that game, niche down again. And that's when you go this game and then I do ridiculous challenges or something like that. Say if I was to, I know nothing about fishing, but if I was to start a fishing channel, I would probably go, what do the other fishing channels do? And then what is something slightly more specific? Say I then do specifically freshwater fishing with lures. And then suddenly I become the internet's foremost expert on that. Oh God, I don't want to say this out loud, but I guess in a weird way, I would be the YouTube's foremost expert on veggie gardening in Southeast Australia, which sounds small, but the audience for that is still going to be more than 10 million people who are probably into that sort of content. So niching down, especially on the internet, you're still going to find a whole lot of people. And my audience is only about 50% Australian. So niching down doesn't hurt your widespread appeal. It helps you find your core audience. When thinking about this, I always think about Jeff Bezos because I come from the world of business and tech business. So I've read every single book on business philosophy in tech business, lean startup, that sort of thing. And which is also one of the reasons that I think I've been so successful at YouTube is that I can take some of those philosophies around, there's a lot of stuff around learning quick and iterating quickly. And essentially never spending any money until you absolutely have to. That sort of thinking is one of the reasons that I think I've been quite successful on YouTube. And I'll eventually do a big breakdown into what all content creators should be stealing from that. But Jeff Bezos obviously started Amazon as an online bookstore, only books. But he has said since that, make no mistake, from the start, his vision, the end vision, was to dominate online retail, but understood that he had to start from dominating one small niche. There is this fantastic concept covered in the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, who was one of the founders of PayPal. And also, I think the first investor in Facebook, if not one of the first investors in Facebook, where the concept is 0 to 1, that anytime you're starting a business, you should avoid competition entirely. Do not try and create a better version of an existing product, because then you usually just end up in a race to the bottom with price against that other competitor product. Instead, you should try and create an entirely new business, an entirely new genre of business or product. You need to take the number of businesses in the world in that genre from 0 to 1. You need to be the first of its kind. And that is exactly what you should do with your channel. You need to create, if you want to be the top 1% growth content creators, you need to be the first channel of that kind in the world. Well, you don't have to be, but that is the easiest way to do it. And that is what people mean when they're talking about niching down. Is the idea with niching down isn't necessarily just to try and get hyper specific. The intended purpose of niching down is to avoid competition with other videos or content creators in that niche. And with me, originally with Culinary Garden, what I thought my version of that was going to be, and by the way, if you are listening to this, I was going to open with this, but I completely forgot. My main YouTube channel is called Culinary Garden. I help teach people veggie gardening. But what I originally thought Culinary Garden was going to be, because I am also a massive, massive cooking enthusiast. I'm a huge enthusiast home cook. Let me tell you that during the pandemic, all I watched was the BA Test Kitchen. Also in uni, the reason that I got into gardening was because I did a gourmet cookery course and I couldn't afford the ingredients. So I had to start learning how to grow herbs, especially thyme and basil, which are really expensive to buy in the supermarket. And what I thought my niche was going to be the first real channel that helps cross over that point between veggie gardening and cooking. But I did a couple of posting the first couple pieces of the gardening content to TikTok, which were originally just clipped parts of YouTube videos. They blew up so quickly that I kind of realized I had to actually focus more on the gardening stuff because there was such a huge demand for it. And then later on, I did a fair few test TikToks. Well, not a few. I did a couple of test TikToks of doing cooking veggie stuff, still trying to target it towards gardeners on my TikTok, and they just performed very poorly. So I just kind of avoided that. And then at about the same time is when I stumbled upon working out that putting Australian veggie garden into my titles and thumbnails got me a whole lot more views and comments saying, "Oh my God, finally someone who lives close to me who is trying to make gardening content." So, in conclusion, when you have 0 views, keep posting videos. Make sure you have a really clear idea on why someone should watch your videos over someone else's, and YouTube will will eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, will work out who that audience is that will want to watch that content. And then once YouTube finally works that out, you might have happen what kind of happened to me, where you finally have a couple of pieces of content that really break through those damn walls. And then you have this backlog of content that the people who find those couple of breakthrough pieces of content then all go back and watch. And then suddenly you finally have your core audience, and you will struggle to remember the days that your videos had 0 views. Thank you very much for listening to this first episode. Please remember to leave a review on whatever platform you're watching this on. If you're on YouTube, please make sure to leave a comment, leave a like. Thank you very much. I will see you hopefully next week. We'll see how we go. Bye.